Hi, this is Peggy from RAW. So our guest today is Subhi Alsayed. So Subhi is the founding managing director of EVA, which is an accelerator focusing on plant-based companies. So thank you so much, Subhi, for being with us today.
Thanks for having me here, Peggy. It's really
That's
great to be here.
that's great, and it's perfect timing. We saw yesterday or 2 days ago, actually, this big deal from Blackstone and Oatly. So that's very, very topical, and I think we're going to see way more deal like that in the future, which is great. So
I
um,
bet, I bet. Yeah.
it's good to do well by doing good. So I'm always following Blackstone. So if you're doing it, I think something good should come from that. Okay, should we get started, or do you want to say a few words on Eva first? As you wish. We
Well,
can.
I wanted to thank you for having me here. I've been following what you're doing, and it's really refreshing to see how you were able to put together a community of thought leaders and different perspectives on what's happening. So I'm really honored to be here, and thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. It's great. It's great to have you. So, first question for you. So, in terms of long-lasting impacts of COVID on the financial services industry, what's your thoughts on that topic?
Well, I think there will be long-term impacts on every aspect of our life, including financial services. I um, I think that the challenge with the forecast, I mean, I remember like how we, at the beginning of this crisis, we were having certain thoughts about the prediction of what's going to happen or what trends are going to stick. But the more or the longer this crisis stays here, and the longer the businesses and societies and countries have to deal with it, I think the more the impact is going to change and shift.
Mhm.
Um, so we're not out of the woods yet, which means it's really difficult to predict. But from where we stand today, I mean, we can see how the interaction between businesses and customers is changing and shifting. There's definitely a move towards, I mean, not necessarily digital interaction, but it's the contactless, they call it the
Yeah.
contactless economy, which moving away from face-to-face or close proximity interaction, which is going to impact a lot of businesses, including like offices and face-to-face services, retail. Um, it's going to impact how things are done pre-COVID, and then I think digital is going to be the obvious solution. There might be other solutions in the future. We don't know how they are. It could be an evolution to digital and virtual interaction. So we don't know but this is the area I can see it being impacted. And obviously, there will be an emergence or importance for cybersecurity. The more we move towards
Yeah.
digital and relying on digital platforms, that's going to become an impact. And we've seen, the moment people started to use a platform like Zoom and House Party, there was a lot of examples of hacking and attempts to compromise these platforms. So that's going to be one of the things. And then currency is also, how is that going to play in terms of transactional um, uh, routes between different countries and markets. So it's too soon to tell, but we can see the trends right now forming as we speak, as we live these days.
Thank you. So if we look at the regulation framework, do you see some new regulations potentially coming up to solve that crisis, especially in the financial services industry?
Well, the thing about regulations, that's in my in my experience, regulations are always behind. They're always lagging. I've never seen innovation driven by regulations. It's usually the industry that takes the leadership position and the drive innovation, especially in the last 10 years. And in some cases, unfortunately, regulations became a roadblock towards innovation in certain areas. So I don't think regulations are going to be changing anytime soon. And we cannot separate the political atmosphere and the uncertainty with what's happening politically across the globe, especially in the US. I think there will be a lot of speculation and waiting to see how, especially the elections in the US and what's going to be the aftermath of that. So all these things are going to put a hold on any regulatory moves at this point. So It's too soon to tell, as they say in election language. So.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned currency, you mentioned obviously the US. So how do you see the global financial order panning out in the near future?
All I can tell you, obviously, I don't think anybody knows. But if we are to learn from the past, I think I like the thought process that kind of uses the post World War II as an example of what's happening right now. And I think what's based on that comparison and lessons learned, I think it makes sense that there will be a lot of reform happening once we get over the crisis, and once the crisis passes in whatever form that looks like, a vaccine, or we learn how to live with the virus. So the reforms themselves will most likely will change the rules of the game. So to me, trying to apply the financial and the capital market rules and all the social rules that we know today on what the future is going to look like may be misleading in some aspects. So I would say we should embrace for different ways of conducting business and different ways of looking at economy and financial markets. May not be, doesn't mean necessarily worse. It will definitely will be a long journey to get there. There will be some struggle, some pain, growing pains, but I think reform is the way to go because yeah, like if there's one thing we learned from this, that there's a lot of status quo and existing systems that don't really work.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, and you say reform, I'm thinking revolution. Like it's almost, and maybe that's my French, that's my French roots was talking here. But
what two brought us the United Nations, right? I mean, regardless of you think it's a functional organization today or not, but that was the reform at the time, and to a certain, for a few years it was a functional organization. It did a lot of good things. For the global relationships between countries and so on. So probably, maybe we will see something like this happening at the global scale, maybe on the financial side as well.
Yeah. Hopefully, helping to reduce inequality would be a good thing. Yeah. So in terms of competitive positioning, obviously a crisis like that, huge disruption always give the opportunity for changes. What do you see have been maybe the winners, losers in terms of competitive positioning in the financial services industry?
I think, in generally speaking too, including financial services, I think what we've seen so far, that how fast and rapid the change took place. Like within few days, we're in lockdown. We can't leave our homes. We're working from home. We're relying on virtual meetings, and we can't access the grocery store. There's just so much change happened within a very short period of time. And I think the businesses who are more agile and more lean and easier for them to pivot and change their model and adapt to the vastly changing markets and landscape of how business is conducted, I think they're the ones who will survive and weather this. Obviously, there's runway and financial backing and capitalization that definitely that's critical. But generally speaking, I think the businesses who can make these changes quickly without impacting their operations, I think they're the ones probably will be ahead of everybody else. And I think also we will see an emergence of a new type of businesses, a new innovation, because, and I work with entrepreneurs and I work with investors. So that's from my world, like entrepreneurs, they come out to solve our day-to-day problems, our market problems, our business problems. And if anything that we know from what was happening is a whole bunch of new problems that's being created today that we don't have solutions for. So they're going to see an emergence of new businesses that's going to using innovation to solve these problems. And obviously, we're going to see capital that exists today that will be allocated to these businesses to finance the solutions. So yeah, that's how I see it.
Well, and hopefully you will also see like new type of capital and new financial instruments. So I know that when we speak about financial instruments, people have bad memories of CDS and things like that. But I always like how innovative the Americans can be in terms of new financial instruments, I think, and you see that every day. I see that every day working with entrepreneurs, how difficult it is to raise money, even if you have a great team, even if you have a great business model, you know. So I'm always craving for this financial instrument that's going to be able to really support this new innovation. So hopefully we'll see innovation in that space as well.
Yeah, and the biggest, I think the biggest attribute or factor that's going to support that is how our tolerance for change and to accepting something new and to adapting has changed dramatically during the crisis. So the things that we were totally unacceptable to us in the past, and like I remember, I think I heard you say on one of your interviews how doing a deal with somebody outside of your city or country even over Zoom was totally unheard of or unacceptable. You know, you have to meet in person, you have to travel. Now I'm doing business and I'm talking to people in Europe, in the US, in South America, and I'm working and I'm partnering with individuals I've never met face to face yet. So this was completely unheard of and unaccepted in the past. So I think that shift in mentality and in open-mindedness towards new, I think that's going to open the door for a lot of innovation. It's going to be exciting once
Yeah.
this is over.
Well, and you know, it's wonderful. I look at that, and it's a bit like a brave new world in the sense that people who might be underdogs, challengers, who might never had opportunities like you just mentioned, speaking with someone in Australia at some point in India, and to visit where I was interviewing an investor in India, you know, like, I would have never done that. I would not even do this if it was before. Right? So I'm really hopeful again that you're going to see a shift in more nimble business model, but also maybe people more like, you know, you and I, who are maybe free agents versus large organizations and very slow-moving entities.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also to add to your point, I think we're going to see most of these businesses that are going to become, I think, superstars and high performance are going to remain small and agile. And I can see the beginnings or of a distributed model in business, you know, where it's about the community aspects, about being local. You could still be part of a global ecosystem, but your operation will be distributed based on the need for it. So yeah, that's definitely possible and plausible.
So talking about size, so where do you see the large incumbents in financial services moving forward in terms of transformation?
Well, I mean, it's. I don't think we're ever gonna not need large organization financial. I mean, if you're talking about banks, for example, you will still need banks. We still need governance. You will still need all the infrastructure that exists today. It's just how you interface and interact with your customers. I think that will change. Um, the, um, the digital aspects of or the nature of businesses most likely is going to become forefront and center because like we see today, you can't use paper anymore. Like you can't sign documents. You can't. And I think this is something, once we realize how efficient this is, I mean, we're going to learn that for the wrong reasons because, you know, in the past, we were, you know, the companies who were driving this transformation were trying to sell it to big organizations using the banner of efficiency and innovation. Now we have to do it, and now we're going to learn that this is actually not bad. It's efficient, and we have to adopt these kind of technologies. So I think that's going to be the transformation. Yeah, beyond that, it's really difficult to tell. That just because we're still in the dust has not settled yet. So I wouldn't be able to give you like a further prediction or insight in the future yet.
No crystal ball for you on
Pretty
that.
muddy and pretty foggy right now.
Okay, so last question. What did the crisis change for you in terms of new habits, of good new habits that you have developed?
Oh man, that's I never thought I'll be sitting indoors as long as I did this past spring, and yeah, I'm an extrovert and I like to meet people and I go out. So that was a big challenge for me. But you know what? It made me appreciate my time more, made me appreciate my alone time more. And I mean, I'm a foodie. I like to cook, but I've never cooked this much in my life. And I got to explore and experiment with fermentation and cooking, and so that was fun. But to me, like the biggest learning was how precious my time is and how now I can value my time. I went through a period where I was on Zoom calls back to back, seamless. It was super exhausting. So I learned to take charge of my time, and now I have a better structure of my days and my weeks.
Ah, good for you. Yeah, I tend to fall prey of that where it's Friday night and I'm like, oh, I've done nothing, but I worked 10 hours every day. What did I do? So I think it's even worse in this virtual environment.
It can
Thank
be training.
Yeah, it is absolutely draining.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Subhi, for your time, for your insights. It's I'm happy that in your time allocation I made it,
Great.
and it was really lovely to hear from you, and good luck with Eva. It's really a great project.
Thank you so much. And again, thanks for having me here. That was great.
Thank you. See you soon. Take care.
Bye bye.